Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of What If deku is a Neko vampire. And I remember, I didn't remember at first, but then someone on Discord, thanks, you know who you are, reminded me, thank you. I would check myself, but my YouTube account is like, yeah, no, you have ads on these videos. I won't let you watch it. Like, what? So, I'm not going to say the name of the person on Discord, but I'm going to say the situation that I had on Discord. And this is going to be a little quick PA for everybody who's on the Discord and wants to join the Discord. If you start threatening the admins, we're going to take away your warnings. You get 3 warnings, and then you get kicked out of Discord. You threaten the admins, and then if you threaten the server, it's an immediate ban. I'm sorry, but I don't accept threats to the people who are working for the server and the server. I keep very little restrictions on the server for you guys because I know people might, one person may have a bad day. Okay, that's understandable. But you start going around threatening the admins and threatening the server, I'm sorry, but I will not accept that. That is done with a quick PA for the server. I'll put a link in the description if I remember. But hopefully we won't have another situation like that. Please respect the admins and please respect the server because I like my servers to be open to as many people as possible. I don't care if you're having an off day. Please respect the server. If you have an off day, I'll just let it go. Maybe warn you, like fix your attitude or fix your language. May warn. So I want to say this one thing before. If you're in the top 10, you have a lot more restrictions because you're the top of the top, you're on the server the most, you interact with us the most, you have more restrictions, you have to be a better role model for the average person because you're on there more often. So please, be nice. I'm not saying you have to be like, oh, you're the best person in the world. No, if you say something against someone, be like, this is my issue with you, and just leave it at that. Okay? That's it for the server. I'm not saying any more. Let's get into the story. So, we start off a few days after the little visit by Mitsuki and Bakugo. And Izumi has not been saying a single word since. She's not said a single word. Everybody who goes in there is either just looked at and they feel like they need to run, or they get this foul look from her and then they're like, okay, yeah, I'm not staying here for very long, and they want to run. Or they just feel uneasy near her at all times. And ever since that incident, or that meeting, or incident meeting, whatever you want to call it, with Mitsuki and Bakugo, not even the shrink, Mitsuki's sister, has been able to talk to her. Only Toga doesn't have this feeling to run away. So, one day, Aizawa walks in and says it's time. And she just nods and she gets up and snaps the chains that she was so graciously having on her and walks over to Aizawa and just nods again. And he's like, okay. So he's like, I'm gonna have to make you do something though. And she just keeps nodding and he's like, okay, this is gonna get strange. And he hands her a court canceling collar. And since it's a quirk-canceling collar, it only suppresses her ability because it's a mutation. So it suppresses her abilities by 50%. This is a big collar. So she walks out into the area and she just walks past these people, and Aizawa is fighting the urge to run away. He knows that she's not going to hurt anybody. She wants to change. Toga comes with them because they've been mentally stable. Well, Toga has been mentally stable because she gets to talk with people. She gets to get normal food, and she also does get to be with Izumi every once in a while. So they're still really close. And Toga asks Izumi a few questions because it's only been a few days. Toga hasn't seen Izumi in the few days. Toga starts asking her questions, and Izumi just either nods yes or nods no, or shakes her head no. And Toga's like, what's happening? And Aizawa's like, I don't know. Ever since I saw her, she's been like this. So they get to UA after a few minutes of Toga and Aizawa chatting, and Izumi just listening and watching out the window. Izumi walks into the testing room, and she has, if anybody's seen Rising the Shield Hero, Raphtalia had the cuffs on her hands. That's basically what she has on her hands. The steel cuffs. So yeah. She sits down at her seat and she's just watching President Mike. And President Mike, not knowing where this feeling of terror is coming from, goes upon his day like in canon, but quickly talking. Really quickly, as fast as he can, so he can get out of there. And all the teachers have the exact same feeling, like they need to run. The students don't know what's going on, but they have a weird feeling. Except for one. Well, two actually. Except for two. One is Toga. The other is Bakugo. Bakugo goes to training ground A, while Izumi goes to training ground B, and Toga doesn't need to do the practical test. Because she's on call if Izumi goes berserk. So, yeah, somebody's coming to pick up garbage. Oh, no! It's not garbage. It's the wood that we left out there for them. Ooh. Oh, that's nice of them. So, Izumi walks up to the front, and Ida doesn't stop her because, well, he's too scared to. And she walks up to the front and just stands there. And she cracks her knuckles, and she gets in a runner's position. And someone goes over the loudspeaker and says, "No runner's position." And she just nods and stands up. And everybody sees her and goes, okay. Why? And they say, "You can have an ounce." And she hears this and takes out a little bottle thing that holds an ounce of liquid. And they see it's red liquid and they don't know what it is. And they see that she drinks it. And her eyes turn from just normal a little bit red to completely crimson red, almost glowing. And like, okay, so her quirk is activated by drinking something. And Mike says, okay, go. And all he says is go. And he turns off the microphone and he's like, oh, I feel like she's about to kill me. And they go, us too. Yeah. And she heard go, and the doors were still opening at that point, and she busted a hole through the doors, knocking one of them off the hinges, and not hinges, off the rollers, and the other one has a giant hole through it, or half a hole through it. And the door that came off the rollers, because sliding door has to have rollers or some kind of levitation to move it back and forth, sent it flying. It breaks 3 buildings, crushes like 15 robots, and that's within a few seconds. And everybody's like, what the hell is going on? And Mike says, go! Don't wait around! She's gonna take all the points! And Ida at that point starts running in trying to get points. Everybody else is running in trying to get points. 10 minutes into the test, because it's a 15-minute long test. All the robots are destroyed except for one. And this one was specially made to fight Izumi. And they didn't give Izumi enough blood to activate her full abilities. They just gave her enough blood to activate around 10%. Because she needs to have 10 ounces on top of what she needs to survive, or actually move around normally, which is a pint. So she goes to crap. She goes to 9%, because she knows that if she starts using 10%, she's going to run through her batteries quickly. She goes to 9%, and she's fighting the robot to a standstill. But each time she hits the robot gets hurt or damaged. And it starts slowing down, and she starts taking advantage of it. So she's currently beating the robot. And finally, the robot gets completely demolished. And Aizawa sees something. And he sees something bad. And he says, send in Toga. That's all he needed to say. And they're like, oh, crap. And Toga runs in, and she was at the front gate. She runs in, and she runs over to the back of the city, and Ida's like, who the hell is she? You can't be in this test if you're late. And he tries to stop Toga, and All Might stops him, being like, it's a security risk if you stop her. And he goes, sorry, All Might. And he goes, don't worry, we have it all under control with her help. And he goes, okay, what's the situation? And he goes, that is classified at the moment. We will tell you if this student is allowed into UA and in your class. And he goes, okay. And All Might assures it to everybody and says to everybody that, hey, the test is over, they need to leave, because there's no robots left. And even the Zero Pointer was defeated easily. There's absolutely no robots left, and they're all like, okay, we will leave. So they all start leaving. And hi, Leo. The cat Leo's trying to say hi. Well, they all start leaving, and Toga runs over to Izumi and immediately holds out her arm. And Izumi's hand goes from a normal hand to the fingers start elongating. They start getting claws. The palm starts to elongate, and it's just transforming slowly. And it's her dominant hand, too. So it's starting to turn super pale white, almost transparent. Toga runs over and holds out her arm, and Toga immediately feels a bite on her arm. And then Izumi passes out. So we go to a few hours later, and Izumi finally is waking up, and Toga has a bandage on her arm, and there's a IV drip into, or blood bag drip into her Izumi's mouth. And Izumi looks at her arm and sees that it's not changing anymore. So Toga asks what the hell was happening, and Izumi goes, I don't know. I've had this happen once before when Mitsuki shows up. And this is the first time she's talked in a few days. And they're like, okay, why didn't you tell us? And she goes, I couldn't. And they ask why, and she goes, after my aunt and it used to be family basically came over and said hi, I went crazy. And my vocal cords just stopped working. And they're like, okay, and she goes, I'm just as confused as you are. And I go, okay, well, we're going to have your quirk checked out again. And she goes, that's fine. Are you going to send me back? And they go, no. Since you do kind of have to come to school now, since you did pass. And she goes, okay, what about Toga? Did she take the test? And Toga goes, no, I was on standby if you went crazy. I'll take the Shiketsu test and see if I can get into UA that way. And Aizawa goes, yes, we've set it up to where she will take the Shiketsu test. And if she passes the Shiketsu test, she will join UA. And Izumi's like, okay. And Izumi lays back down and goes back to sleep, still with a drip in her mouth. So we go to a week later. I think it's a week. No. It's a month later, I think. Yeah, I think it's a month later. I don't remember the time frames. But we go to the start of school, and it's the first day. Aizawa walks in and says, okay, everybody, we have a special student in here that has a very troubled past. And he says to the class, if you speak too loud, if you insult her, if you do anything to offend her, or another student, well, actually two, and he points at Bakugo and says, or her, and I'll show you the other one if you ever do anything to, I don't have the power to stop her. No matter what you do, do not offend her. Even though she's many years younger than me, and I have much more fighting experience, she aims to kill, not aims to wound. And they all look at him like he's crazy, and he goes, let me just bring her in. And he says, okay, let's bring in the vampires. And Toga and Izumi both walk in, and Toga goes, hi. And Izumi just goes, sup. And Toga starts trying to make friends with people. Because Toga's still a happy, cheery person, but she still has that little bit of an addiction to blood. So Toga is talking with people, and Izumi walks over to a certain corner of the room and sits down. And this, what seems like shadow casts over the entire class. And everybody looks back at Izumi and sees that she's doing nothing of the sort, but everybody feels this pressure coming from where Izumi is. And everybody looks at Izumi again, takes a double take, and they're like, what? And Toga feels this a little and goes, oh crap, she's hungry. Toga runs over and hands her a bottle, and this bottle's full of stuff that no one can see. And Aizawa goes, already? And Toga goes, she's been getting hungry at random points in time. And only one person really noticed him say vampire. And that was Mina. And Mina, being the shipping person and the high fiction vampire geek that she is going to be in this one, walks over and respectfully bows and introduces herself. And Aizawa sees this and goes, what the hell is she doing? And Izumi, acting like the stoic vampires, because she's still the playful child that she was when she's around Toga, sees this and starts laughing her ass off. And she goes, you don't need to be so formal. As long as I'm near her or her, and points at Bakugo. And in this one, Bakugo's blood type is O negative. And points at Bakugo, and Bakugo starts being like, what? And she goes, as long as you don't hurt her or her, I'm fine. And they all look at Bakugo and Toga, and they go, okay. And we go to after lunch. Everybody's come back from lunch. Bakugo and Toga never left the classroom because their lunch pail is in the classroom, or their lunch bags are in the classroom. They don't get food from lunch rush. So Toga and Bakugo sit in their seats, and they've been assigned seats. Toga in front of Izumi and Bakugo next to Izumi. And she's in the far left. Far back left. The little corner of the room. And she's just talking with Bakugo and Toga until the bell rings. And Bakugo and Toga are just being like, yeah, this is average. And Bakugo's happy that she has her friend back, because she's missed Izumi. Because Izumi was the only one who actually treated her as a friend, unlike everybody else who wanted to get in good graces with her, especially after she unlocked her quirk. So everybody is just wondering why Bakugo and Toga are so buddy-buddy with her, until one day, because this is going to be a few days later, everybody's gone to see all their teachers. It's now Aizawa's full day of him teaching homeroom, which is the third day of school. He's like, okay, orientation is today. We don't need to go to orientation. And like, I thought orientation was the last 2 days. And he goes, no. That was so you can get a feeling for where all your classes are. And all your classes are in this room, which is stupid. All your teachers, which is just me and Midnight, which is stupid. And he's saying this. I forget if I matched Aizawa with Midnight or not. So he's saying this, and he's like, okay, what should we do? And he's looking at Izumi, and Izumi's just not paying attention. He goes, huh, drills, got it. And they all look at him and pale, and he goes, okay, everybody, go to the changing room and get changed now. And Izumi gets up and starts walking towards the changing room, and she doesn't bother arguing with Aizawa. Uraraka asks why aren't we going to orientation, and Izumi's already out of the room. Bakugo's followed her, and Toga's followed her, because Bakugo, Toga, and Izumi start chatting outside of the room. And Aizawa's like, just go or you're getting expelled. And Uraraka's like, you can't do that, this is our first day. And he goes, I can do whatever the hell I want in my class. Now go or you're getting expelled. And they start running to the changing room, and Bakugo, Izumi, and Toga are already there. 2 blondes and a green-haired girl. But Bakugo, Toga, and Izumi are already there, and where is she white? I think I might have made her hair white. I don't remember. But all 3 of them are in the changing room, and Izumi's currently just in her underwear. And Mina walks in and sees this and goes, damn! You looking good! And Izumi goes, okay. And it just continues changing. And Bakugo's like, what? And she looks at Izumi, and she immediately goes red-faced. Toga runs over and hugs Izumi and says, yeah. She does. And Bakugo is getting jealous, and she doesn't know why, but she is. Yes, I'm making it like that. So Bakugo is wondering why she doesn't like Toga anymore. And Toga just doesn't care. She'll share Izumi. But after a few minutes, everybody's getting changed, and Izumi walks over to Jiro and just points. And Jiro sees where she's pointing, and Jiro just nods, being like, yeah, I'll do it. And she sticks a earphone jack in the wall, and she doesn't hear anything. And Izumi's just like, 3, 2, 1, go. And Jiro shoots her ear jack through the wall and slams into something. And Izumi, using one of her abilities, and yes, I'm giving her a few abilities, puts her hand over the hole, and the hole just disappears. Yes, some vampires do have a limited amount of space control around them. That's kind of how they go a little fast. Just saying. And that's kind of how they transform, because they have control over space and the manipulation of their body. So, yeah. So, she seals up the hole just by putting her hand over it and waving it away. So, the hole is completely sealed, and Mineta is on the other side with a bloody eye, because his eye just got stabbed by something sharp. So, his eye's bleeding, and he's like, I need to get out there or I'm going to get expelled. So, he just puts an eye patch on, and his eyes very slowly, but still bleeding. So I won't die from it, but it's very irritating. And Izumi's out there, and when Mineta gets out there, she smells blood, and she starts to giggle. And Aizawa hears this giggle and pales. And then Toga smells blood, because her senses are a little bit stronger than the average humans, but still not as strong as Izumi's. And Toga smells blood and walks over to Aizawa and says, 3, 2, 1. And something sharp shoots out of Mineta's eye patch. Yes, she does have a limited amount of blood control. So she can only control small things with blood. And she grabs it, and it's looks like a crystal. What some games think of diamonds. Or if you guys have seen the suits for playing cards, what you look as for diamonds, that's basically what it looks like, that kind of crystal. And she just starts eating it. Only the guys know what it is. Tokoyami's like, darkness surrounds her. Todoroki is like, disgusting. Kirishima's like, oh, that's not manly. And they all have their own reactions. And Mena's just freaking out like, oh god, oh god, oh god. She's just gonna drain me of my blood. And he starts freaking out, and Aizawa sees that she's eating something, and he's like, oh. Izumi, and he was about to say Midoriya, and he knows that if he says that, she's going to go ape on him. And so he goes, Toga, what's your last name? And Izumi hears this and completely hides it, but she's beet red. Just her ears turn red, and yes, they're a little sharp because of the vampiric side of her. Her ears turn red, and Mina, being the observant one, sees this and goes, ooh, do I smell tea? My tea senses are tingling. And Bakugo noticed this and felt even more rage, and he goes, no, never mind. Bakugo. Izumi Bakugo. And Bakugo's face goes beet red, thinking of what would happen between her and Izumi to get that title. And she just goes, just call me Izumi. And her ears are even redder because she's thinking about both of them. And Mina noticed this and goes, oh. I must ask her later. So Mina has tea. Yes, Mina always has tea. Toga just doesn't care. She openly shows her affection towards Izumi. She doesn't care. Bakugo is nervous about it. So she walks up to the circle and she goes, how much? And he goes, full 10. And she goes, okay. And she pulls out a tube that says 10. And it's a full 10 ounces. And she drinks it and drinks it really quickly. And her eyes go deep crimson red. Instead of bright crimson red, it's deep, deep crimson red. and her hand, one of her fingers starts to change a little, and she's holding back the transformation completely. Because every time she starts changing, she feels hungry. So she's trying to hold back her hunger. So she takes the ball, and Aizawa sees the finger starting to elongate, and he goes, "Oh God." And he's like, and he pulls out a notepad and he says, "Note to self, change blood type." And they've been giving her A and B blood types, which are supposed to help basically sedate her, but the blood types aren't coming off that well. And one of the rarest blood types is O negative. This is a little blood fact for you. One of the rarest blood types is O negative. I think that's correct. Or it's AB negative. It's one of those two. But O negative is seen a lot more because ambulance drivers and ER rooms or emergency rooms for hospitals keep O negative blood in stock because it has no identifying qualities compared to normal blood, like positive O, B, A, doesn't have any identifiers. So your body can absorb the blood a lot easier with O negative blood than not, especially if they don't know what your blood type is. Just a little blood fact for you. And you can check the rarity of blood. I'm probably not right about it. I don't know. I haven't checked the rarity of blood. But I know I am right about them keeping O negative blood just in case they can't test the patient's blood fast enough, because they can't in an emergency. They gotta be on it. Just a little blood fact. So he's like, change blood can't be common. So he puts the notepad away and he looks at the device because she just threw it, and he sees that it's constantly going up. And then it just stops. No, stop, and then go up again. No. It just stops. And then it reads recalculating, and it goes, and then it says negative, and he's like, what? And then it goes positive again. And then it stops for a little bit. And then it goes negative again. And it's like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, something hits the back of his head, because he's looking at where Izumi threw it. And he sees that the ball went around the world multiple times. And he goes, well, you're pretty much number one. And then Uraraka goes, she gets infinity, obviously. Everybody goes through the rest of the test: push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, plank. The fitness gram pacer test is a multi-aerobic, multi-capacity test. Sorry. This pacer test, the 100-meter dash, the 50-meter dash. She's pretty much number one in all of it, except for ball throw. She's not number one in, because Uraraka got infinite. Otherwise, she's number one. Mineta is number 21. And he goes, well, I wasn't lying about the expulsion, because we can only have 20 people in class. You're the 21st person. So, bye-bye. And he hands Mineta a slip and says, and also, I know how you got that injury. So, that's another reason. And he writes the second reason, and he goes, here you go. Go to Nezu's office. And Mineta's crying and peeing himself because he doesn't want to leave. And she holds her nose, walks over to Mineta, grabs him by the collar. They disappear. She drops him, comes back, and still holding her nose, by the way, walks over to Toga and pokes Toga in the arm, the wrist. And basically puts her face next to Toga's arm and starts drinking. And he goes, at least she staved off this long. And everybody sees her, and he goes, okay, everybody back to class. They can stay for a little bit, but back to class. And Bakugo's like, what? Anyways, you can stay, but everybody else back to class. And they're all like, why can she stay? And he goes, well, her. And he points to Izumi, and they go, see you at class. And they go back to class, and he goes, well, in a week you'll have, or at the end of next week, you'll have the very first Heroes versus Villains little thing with a well-known hero. And I'll have to leave a note, or you guys will have to tell him before he gets into class about the student. And if he does do anything, and he puts his emergency number on the board, he says, call this number immediately if he does anything to her. And he points at the empty seat, which is empty still. And they go, yes, sir. Because they have no reason to hate her. All they know is that she was a convicted felon. That's all they know. Is that she did some bad stuff that she's trying to change. And Aizawa especially, he gives them an example of a quirk taking control, and he points at Tokoyami, and he says that we also have another person who has pretty much the exact same problem. The quirk can take control. Well, it's not really the quirk, but it's the part of the brain that the quirk is basically based in, the addiction center. And they all ask why, and he goes, well, you guys all like your little power trips that you use with your quirks. And they go, what? And he goes, well, whenever you, and he points at Todoroki, you points at another kid, and you, and points at another kid, and he explains how they get a power trip every time they activate their quirk, which makes them want to keep activating their quirk, which makes them want to be heroes, so they can continue activating their quirk. And they hear all this reasoning, and they're like, oh crap, he's right. So they are like, yeah, we need to rethink this. And then someone from the back, yes, someone in the back has asked, this is our Cheshire girl, the one that pretty much no one notices, asks, why is Izumi trying to become a hero then? And Aizawa says it's because that if she actually accidentally does lose control and start attacking things, because she's only attacked villains. And he explains that she's only attacked villains and she's never really killed any civilians. They bled out. She's only attacked civilians if she was hungry enough. And they ask, what do you mean if she was hungry enough? And he says that she's a legitimate vampire. She drinks blood. He explains her full quirk, and they're all like, oh, okay. And then after he's done, and he's like, any questions? And Izumi walks in and he goes, any questions about the thing next week? Just wanted to make sure about it. And he changes the topic completely, and they're like, yeah, I better not talk about that near her. And Izumi's like, what's going on next week? And he goes, I was just about to fill you guys in. And he fills in Izumi, Bakugo, and Toga. And we skip a week, and everybody's looked at Izumi differently. Everybody who had a grudge against Izumi for being a monster looks at Tokoyami, because they're friends with Tokoyami, and looks at him like a monster for a little bit, and then is like, but why? We know Tokoyami. So they stop looking at her like a monster, and she senses this and just doesn't care. So they all start talking to her and getting to know her. Our favorite Cheshire cat in the back, Higakure, gets to know Toga a lot better. Kirishima gets to know Izumi a lot better because he's talked to her about the side effects of her quirk and how if she doesn't eat regularly, she will go crazy. And he's asked if she could use her full strength and try to bite through his arm. And she goes, sure. And she bites through it completely fine. But she's like, you don't have any blood. And he goes, yeah, I do. And he unhardens his arm, and the blood starts to flow. So he hardens it back up again and says, I don't have blood when I'm hardened. And she goes, you're the complete counter to me. Because if I go feral, and that's what I'm going to be calling it whenever I get hungry enough, and they're currently talking, and Aizawa hears this and starts listening. And it's not quite the time for All Might to get in here. It's still homeroom, free time. And she goes, if I'm feral, you are the best bet of calming me down. Especially if you bring her. And points at Toga. And he goes, okay, I'll know how to deal with you. And Aizawa hears thud, thud, thud through the halls because All Might has arrived at school. He's not going to class yet. And he says, well, I'm off. Your new teacher's coming to do the Heroes versus Villains training. And remember what I said, okay? And they'll say, hi, sensei, and which is H-A-I, which is yes in Japanese. And they all sit down, are waiting for All Might to walk through the room. And once All Might goes, I am here, walking through the door like a normal person, Ito walks up and says, well, I'm the class representative, because I'm making him the class rep immediately. And he goes, okay, class rep, nice to meet you. I'm your teacher for this exercise. And he goes, okay, I need to talk to you outside before you get into this. This is for the trouble people. And he goes, will do. And he walks out with Ida, and everybody who was acting calm to hide Izumi's calm disposition starts relaxing, going, oh, he caught it. Thank God. Because I'm not making Ida such a stick-up-the-butt person. He's a little more relaxed. And I'm not killing off Tensei. I'm not giving him the stain attack like what happened in canon. Just saying. So, All Might and Ida are talking, and Nezu shows up and says, I'm here to oversee the class just in case something happens. And Ida goes, well, we've just figured that out. We have 2 children that are one, which is the failsafe, and then one to help distract so the failsafe can get there easily. And he hears failsafe and a distraction, and All Might's like, what's going on? And Nezu goes, who's the distraction? I didn't know there was a distraction. And Ida says, well, we just learned from a test, and this was a test done by herself, and All Might hears her, and he's like, okay, fill me in. I'm about to teach this class. And they go, 1 second. And Nezu hears that Kirishima is the complete counter to her while he's hardened. So, Nezu's like, okay, so that makes sense. When he's hardened, she can't get any blood from him, so she can't knock him out, because his blood becomes hardened. If you guys have seen the Overhaul arc, you'll know what I mean. His blood is literally crystallized, because he crystallizes his entire body. And All Might hears this and goes, okay, so what's happening? And Nezu says, you are not allowed to strike or yell at any of these students. And he goes, yes, sir, what's happening? And Nezu goes, well, we have a student here that is a felon. And he hears this and goes, what? And he goes, wait, I wasn't done. This felon is trying, and she was under the influence of her own quirk. And you know what people under the influence of their own quirk can do. And he goes, yeah, I do. And he goes, good. Now, if you will, teach this class without offending her. Because if you offend her, I won't be able to stop her. Nor will the failsafe, which is Toga Himiko, Bakugo, Kasuki, or Kasuki Bakugo, whatever you want to call him, and Ejiro Kirishima. And he hears Ejiro Kirishima and is like, what? Why him? He just has hardening quirk. And Ida says yes, but we just tested it, and she was willing to do it for a test because she's currently not hungry. She bit into his arm and no blood came out. So we have a way to distract her with a person who can get hurt and no blood comes out. So she won't keep getting stronger and fall into the constant threat of going feral. And he's like, okay. And Nezu goes, I'll be overseeing as many times as I need to make sure that everybody does what they're supposed to. And All Might's like, okay. He walks in, and Ida sits down, and they all go back to their calm disposition, and All Might says, I don't like this class. And they all are like, what? And he goes, I don't like this class because I don't agree what they're doing here. But I will try, and he says this, and I've hidden my true personality from the world. I put on a mask. I'm sorry, but I will try to change. And he looks straight at Izumi and says, I'm sorry if I do anything to offend you. I'm trying to change. From what I hear, you have done everything within the strict rules that you've been given. And she goes, yes, I have. And he goes, I'm sorry if I offend you with any action I do today. Please do not hurt any of the other children in the class. And she goes, I won't. If anything, I'd hurt you first. And she just goes lazy. And he goes, oh, that's a relief. And then he goes on teaching, and he goes, all heroes must have an outfit. Let's get you guys yours. And that's where I'm going to stop it this time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, consider hitting that like button. And if you guys didn't, please don't hate me. But if you guys like my content, and hopefully you guys did, and you guys are new to my channel, please, why are you watching the second one first? That's just strange. But please consider subscribing if you do. If you like my content that much, definitely consider subscribing. And definitely consider hitting that like button, because the likes help me. They get me more ads on other videos, and my videos are more and more likely to show up first. And when they show up first, more people watch them, and the less ads I need in my videos to actually get money. So, and I think it's either tomorrow or next week that I'll be doing a D&D game with some of the people in my Discord. It may not be tomorrow. It depends on if the last person gets the information to me for tomorrow. But it's going to have to be on a Friday. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. I'm going to be streaming Saturday and Sunday of this week. I may stream tomorrow another script stream where I just watch videos, listen to music, and just write a script on stream for you guys. Search up things. You guys can look at what I've been writing. And it's hopefully no, maybe not that one. It may be the Warframe What If that I will be doing later with the collab that I've done for my military. But my military is going to be a little slow because we've gotten halfway done. We're either doing the USJ, this part, or her backstory next part. But my backstory is done. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Which will come out probably either this weekend or next week. Fox, I know you're watching this. Please finish the script with me. It's almost done. Please. So, talk to you guys later. Bye.